like to welcome Mr. David Sipes, our Chief Operating Officer, who will tell you more about recent accomplishments as well as our plans in this year and years to come. Mr. Sipes.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave, they're all warmed up. You close them.
Awesome. Thanks, Vlad. Clearly, there's a lot of change going on in the industry. There's a lot of change going on with RingCentral. A lot of change going on with ConnectCentral here is much larger than a year ago. In fact, you may be familiar with the saying that the only thing that's constant is change. However, you might not be familiar that that was said over 2,500 years ago by the Greek philosopher Heraclitus. And while Heraclitus got it right that change is constant, what he didn't understand is the rate of change is not. Today, we're living in an accelerated rate of change. And it's driven by technological innovation and disruption. Let's take a look at how it's affecting businesses today. This is a chart of the S&P 500 index, which is the largest companies in the world, the top 500 companies. And it shows how long they've stayed in that index, traditionally over time. If you look back a half century ago, those companies were staying in the index for 60 years. But that's changed. Today, they're only staying in that index for 17 years. That means over the last 17 years, we generated enough new entrants in the S&P 500 to have a completely new index. And think about that. Think about some of the largest companies today, some of the largest tech companies. They talk about FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Where were they 17 years ago? 17 years ago was the millennia, it was 2000. Where do you think Facebook was in 2000? They were still 4 years from being founded, from even having a product. Mark Zuckerberg was 16. What a slacker, right? Where was Netflix in their business model 17 years ago, in 2000? They were still mailing DVDs by US snail mail. In fact, it was such an unattractive opportunity. Reed Hastings offered his company up for sale in 2000 for $50 million. That blows your mind because they're worth more than $50 billion today. What might blow your mind even more is who he offered to sell it to, which was Blockbuster. And think about Google. Where were they 17 years ago? They didn't have a revenue model yet. In fact, it was 17 years ago yesterday, October 23rd, 2000, that AdWords was born. And AdWords makes up over 70% of Google's revenues and arguably over 100% of their profits. And now, they're the second most valuable company in the world, behind Apple. So clearly, opportunity for dramatic change with technology and opportunities going forward. But how do you, as IT leaders, how do you deal with this change? Well, let's look at where it's coming from. So 3 areas. One is technology itself is changing. Another is we see new business models in the marketplace. And we also have new generations of workers. Let's look at each one. On technological advancements, clearly the miniaturization of compute power and wireless technology has enabled this great mobility and change in how we work, distributed workforces and global workforces. In fact, today, 3.8 billion people are connected to the internet. And not only that, they're carrying around over 8 billion connected devices. And it's not going to stop. With the advent of things like natural language processing, the way we input information into these devices, the number is just exploding with wearables and other opportunities. And then there's whole new categories of technological change with machine learning, artificial intelligence, is already changing the prioritization of your search results. It's already starting to change when you get alerted and why. And soon starting to change your calendar and what you're going to do for the day. Along with the technological change, we're seeing a change in business models. You know, we used to live in a hardware world. We used to make boxes, buy boxes, install boxes, update boxes. But we were spending too much time on low-value activities. It wasn't getting to the increased personal productivity. So we moved to software and how that was helping people do things better. But then we were still installing software, deploying software, securing software, a lot of low-value activities. So we've outsourced that now to cloud providers who are doing that for us, and they're keeping us on the latest innovations. And it's also opened up this whole new ecosystem of large cloud platforms, and also the ability to buy compute and storage in small API layers. I mean, this is amazing. IBM announced an SDK and API for their quantum computer earlier this year. So do you have to build a quantum computer to solve massively parallel problems with entangled particles? That sounds tough. You don't need to. With platform, you can just buy what you need and code on anything. And what else is changing is the workforce itself. You know, by 2020, over half the workforce will be the millennial generation or younger. And they have completely different expectations of rich user experiences, of always-on availability, of elegant use of software, whether it's consumer software or business software, of being very messaging-centric, social-centric. So how do you, as an IT leader, assist this cohort while you still have your existing employees that may be more desk-centric, phone-centric, email-centric? How do you bring them together in a collaborative environment and unleash that productivity? Well, I think, you know, the solution has been chosen, which Vlad talked about, which only the cloud really can bring together these distributed global workers, storing data across multiple devices, some messaging, some on live communications. And we see that organizations, like the cloud debate is over, individuals have chosen it for their personal software. Teams have embraced this for their group work in organizations. Whole departments have chosen core applications of choice. And the enterprises have embraced this. So what's the modern cloud enterprise look like today? Here you have whole departments and organizations that have selected cloud applications. It's not unusual for an enterprise to have more than 100 cloud applications active in their company. And you have people that are spending all their time in it. You have Riyadh in marketing spending all his time in Marketo. You have Mitch Tarika in sales spending all his time in Salesforce. You have Paul Chapman from Box here, his team in IT spending their time in Jira desk. And you know, what's missing here is how do you have all these people in these different departments working with these cloud apps? How are they collaborating? And how are they communicating? And that's where we see the opportunity to bring the collaboration and communications into the cloud, and done right, done in a way that not only brings these disparate workers together, but also creates that connective tissue that connects these various enterprise cloud applications. So that's what RingCentral is doing. And is this going to take decades? Yeah, I don't think so. You know, and Gartner doesn't think so. Gartner 10 years ago talked about whether cloud was the right thing or not, but that's over. 5 years ago, it was about multi-cloud and these different cloud elements. But now they're saying in a few short years, we're going to be in an all-in cloud strategy. And what's the all-in cloud strategy mean? That means in the IT architecture in an organization, there is no place for a legacy solution anywhere. So time is short to stay relevant and stay ahead of the curve. How's RingCentral helping solve that? You know, the RingCentral solution is unique. We're the only one that's taking the core pillars of communication and bringing it into one product suite. Starting with the cloud phone system or cloud PBX, combining it with team messaging, collaboration, as well as video meetings, web share, and the contact center, where you have some of your most intensive customer engagement in your organization today. And we're bringing it in a way, and why is this important? Because it helps you consolidate your disparate products that may have cropped up in use in your organization, bring into one world-class solution. The RingCentral solution is unique in this way, but it's differentiated in 3 ways. 1, has a unified experience. 2, it's global in nature. And 3, we believe in an open platform. So let's just take a look at each of those key differentiators. So the RingCentral solution unifies this experience of these 4 products: the cloud phone system, team messaging, video and web meetings, contact center. The RingCentral solution unifies across different types, generations of workers, ones that are messaging-centric or phone-centric. The RingCentral solution unifies across different roles in an organization, from administrator and supervisor and end user. And the RingCentral solution unifies across different devices that are being used by these individual users every day. And that brings you and your thousands of users all onto the same page. Additionally, we're doing this in a global nature, and this has never been done before. It's never been done before by legacy. It was hard to do with hardware, with having to utilize different service providers in every country. You couldn't put together one complete solution. And now you can with RingCentral. What you're looking at is our global footprint. The yellow countries are countries you can have local presence and inbound communications from. The orange countries are global office countries where you can have same as local experience, and you can bring, we cover now 37 countries, and those 37 countries make up 84% of the world's GDP. So now, for the first time, you can bring employees in all the places that are important to you, all onto one system, all onto one account, with centralized administration, with instant provisioning of users across all these countries. And you get to bring, and you get one SLA and one vendor across all these. The RingCentral Global Office product has been a huge hit. We have a GLIP team. It's one of the most active in the company, always asking about what the next country that's going to be added to RingCentral Office. Just the other week, there was an ask from one of the account executives on behalf of his customer prospect was, hey, is the Vatican its own global office country, or is it part of Italy? And I was wondering, how many prospects are in that? Well, apparently, there's an archdiocese in Canada with 74 parishes that has a strong interest in communicating and collaborating with upper management. How else is RingCentral differentiated, is our open platform. And this is something we spent multiple years, hard work, at opening up our platform, opening up with communication, enterprise, collaboration APIs, and chatbots. And we're seeing amazing growth here, because this really creates that connective tissue and those integrations with those other cloud applications that you're running, those hundreds of other applications you're running in your organization. We've had great growth in this. We have now over 100 apps out of the box in our app store that you can use as a customer with any one of these cloud applications. That's grown over 120% in the last year. Just in the last year, we've added Skype for Business, Box, ServiceNow, Dropbox, Dynamics, just to name a few. And in addition to those out-of-box apps, we have 700 customers that have graduated a custom integration with their core systems and workflows. And they're doing it through, we've had 7,000 developers register. And both those numbers are up over 170% year over year. And our platform, our single platform, is now delivering or responding to 3 billion API calls a year. That's up over 80% year over year. And why is this important? It allows you to integrate your business workflows and your cloud applications and make the RingCentral collaborative communications at the center. And we're doing this through very rapid innovation with 5 major releases a year, which I know can be intimidating. It seems intimidating for our teams, but it can be intimidating for how you educate your thousands of employees. So we've invested very significantly in doing things to help you with that through our professional services and customer support. Just in the last year, we've expanded our global delivery of professional services. We've now done on-site professional service engagements in 28 countries around the world. That's up over 100% year over year. We've expanded the RingCentral University content 8x, and we've created multiple tracks where you can learn online through self-paced learning, video and webinars, or in person at RingCentral classrooms. In fact, we had a sold-out classroom yesterday, over 100 people on a level 2 training. So very significant expansion. We've also expanded our customer success program. We initially launched it as an enterprise service, but we had such great response, we've expanded to all mid-market customers. So anyone with over 100 users can have a dedicated customer success manager. We've introduced enterprise premium support, which among other things allows direct to tier 2 access. And while we've had the multiple languages in the product, we've added those languages in our customer support organization, offering German, French, Spanish, and English in customer support. And how's that performing? We work closely with the Technology Services Industry Association, TSIA. They measure customer satisfaction across a broad swath of technology companies. And when we look at things like technical support, customer satisfaction, they benchmark the average across all technology companies on an 8.5 on a 10 scale. And they identify their best performers. They call them pace setters. The top 15% all performers perform at a 9.2 on a 10 scale. Well, RingCentral last quarter on technical customer support satisfaction scored a 9.4. And that's not a one-time thing. That's the 7th consecutive quarter we've been at or above the pace setter target. And how are we doing that? We really, as Vlad talked about, focus on the customer and listen to the customer. So we've had, since the beginning of last year, over 100 improvements come through our technical support teams that have gotten into the product. And that's on top of the innovation, visionary aspects we're adding to the product every day. So how's the product working in the real world? Does it only work for technology companies? Well, Structural Group, they're not a technology company. They're a construction services company with almost 3,000 employees across 32 offices globally. And talk about a diverse workforce. This is white collar and this is blue collar workforce combined in the same team. But Structural really embraced the idea of putting the employee first and getting everyone on the same page, and did it through collaborative communications. Let's see how they're using RingCentral in the field.
At Structural Group, we're a highly collaborative organization. We do engineering, we do product manufacturing, and we're also a self-performing contractor. And so for us, it's all about the highly collaborative environment. Our goal has been to put in a unified platform that allows us to have anyone in the company connect with anyone else in the company with whatever medium they're comfortable with. We've put in a system now that over the last year has been able to achieve the vision that we wanted, which was people in the center, and then their ability to communicate with anyone else in the organization, whether that's a phone call, a video conference, an audio conference, a document share, a GLIP team, it doesn't matter.
Construction is all about communication. We've got to take a lot of plans and details, and we've got to get that information to our crews so that they can go and deliver our project. Before GLIP, it was all about that long sequence of communication. We'd get on a job site, it's inevitable they're going to find something that's different than what we expected. And with GLIP, the technician can snap a photo and send it to me instantly. They can open up a video chat and we can actually talk about what the problem is. And so we go from 2 days and some long hours to fix a problem to maybe a couple minutes to solve a challenge and get those guys right back to work and moving on.
One of the advantages we have now as administrators is the administrative console that we get with RingCentral, which allows us to handle 90% of the issues that may come across our desk, whereas before we would have to call in and it could take a few days to get a customer's issue resolved.
For us, it's really how do you put people in the center of it and allow those people to communicate any way that it is that they want to communicate and have a system that facilitates the ability to do it.
That's awesome. We have Jason Cash from Structural. Jason, I hope I don't want to surprise you, but why don't you come up here? I'd like to hear a few words. Thanks for participating today, Jason. And was that really one of your workers up on a cooling tower?
It was.
Or a
Actually,
large
that's a 600-foot high structure, about maybe 100 foot in diameter, and 5 or 6 guys hanging off the side of that building.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit, what challenge were you trying to solve at Structural? What was your organization looking for? What was your CEO looking for?
Sure. So our CEO came to me and said, Jason, we need to increase sales, we need to increase profitability and increase revenue. And that's really not a kind of an IT thing to do, right? So it's an interesting challenge for an IT professional. So we started looking at this and saying, you know, how can we streamline some of these activities? And you saw a gentleman on the video, Tim Eckberg, who was a project engineer at the time. Now he's a project manager, and then he does safety and quality for us. And him and I got to talking maybe 6 months ago about how do we drive these things into the organization. So kind of a real story was the way he used to do activities. So he was one of the individuals that was on the side of that swing stage. And he was working at a job, this was about 2 years ago, he was working at a job where they were only allowed to bring material up the side of the building. They couldn't bring it back down. And inevitably in the construction process, you run into something that you're unsure of what to do. And in some cases, you could actually damage the structure or put people in an unsafe position. And so they would get on their Nextel 2A radio and say, hey, I need to show you something. So they'd send a digital camera up in a bucket on a rope, and they would bring it all the way up there, and then someone would snap pictures of what's going on. And they couldn't bring the bucket down. And so they'd have to wait until that shift came back down in 8 hours. Tim would collect the cameras. He would go off into a room, download those into a computer. The next shift is there now, so they're working. So they're back up on those swing stages. And he'd have to review it, come up with a strategy, come up with a plan, and then share that plan with the next crew that's going to go up there, which is the third shift crew. So we came up with the idea of what's the thing holding us back from being able to make that communication real time right now, right? We had the tools. We had RingCentral, we had GLIP, we had communications, we had all of those things. So the challenge for us was, well, how do I light up the side of that structure, right? So we put in Wi-Fi around the entire structure, and now we can have an individual with either an iPad, a laptop, a cell phone, whatever it is, on the side of that building. And in real time, you saw him chipping that stuff out. In real time, he comes up to a situation that he doesn't know how to solve it. He can immediately start a video conference with someone in the job site trailer 1,000 feet down. And if they're not sure what to do, then we can jump on a video conference with someone in another city, and we can have a real-time conference. And if the repair technique or strategy has to change, those files can get uploaded to GLIP. He can see those files on his phone, and they can talk about how they want to solve that problem. So that process 2 years ago could be 1 shift, 2 shifts, or multiple days, where now we can solve that problem in 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
That's amazing. It really sounds like it's changing the way you're actually conducting business. And why, of all the opportunities out there, why RingCentral? What was unique about the RingCentral solution?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty easy question to answer. So for us, so we talked about people at the middle, which was kind of interesting. Only in the last year we started realizing that we're actually using the same nomenclature in your organization and in our organization. So we're highly collaborative to begin with. And we needed a platform that would foster that type of communication mechanisms within our organization. Plus, we got things like disaster recovery, business continuity. We had switch situations where tornadoes would come through, or floods would come through, or a cyclone would come through, and it would shut down an entire facility. But when you're in the clouds, right? So you've got this cloud-first strategy for UCaaS. It allows you to now not have to worry about any of those things. Yeah, our facility might be underwater and our financial system might not be running, but if a customer calls, that phone call is going to get through either to their mobile device or some other mechanism, and they can get on the road and go start looking at a customer's facility and start those repair techniques the next day. That's an invaluable process.
Awesome. Well, you're headed down this cloud journey and the all-in cloud strategy, I assume, like other organizations. What's next on the horizon for you?
Yeah, so we're doing some interesting things, like on those swing stages, we're putting sensors on individuals. We want to monitor temperature, humidity, heart rate, things like that, and be able to combine that with this centralized communication platform. And where we're going to take the communication platform is now talk about increasing sales and increasing revenue, right? So we've got this ecosystem that allows us to have a collaborative communication environment now. So how do I take that? And from a sales perspective, the sales individuals don't want to leave Salesforce. They don't want to jump out of Salesforce and go over to this other product. So how do we embed all of the RingCentral capabilities, from video conferencing, audio conferencing, screen pops, customer interactions, GLIP teams? How do we embed that in their Salesforce instance so they don't ever have to leave Salesforce? Now, on the profitability side, we have this project management suite that we use for building information management or being able to manage all of the activities that go on in a job. How do we embed those same capabilities into that platform? So now we can put the individuals, this is an interesting concept, right? Take the individuals that are actually performing the work that just ran across a change in conditions, and get a sales individual from the sales side immediately on a conference or in a GLIP team, and be able to talk about, well, how are we going to strategize to do this differently? And now it's a new sale. So now we've closed that loop on how do I increase sales, how do I increase profitability, how do I increase revenue, all with a communication platform that lives in the middle.
It's awesome. I really appreciate the time and having you as a customer.
Thanks for having me up here.
Amazing use case. Thanks, Jason. We've talked about the unique RingCentral solution that combines the cloud, phone system, collaboration, meetings, contact center, and differentiated across unified experience, global, open platform. We've seen it now in real life, but we're not done. Would you like to see something new today or hear something new? All right. Well, I'm happy to announce, first time today, we're announcing new integrations. We have a RingCentral Alexa Skills integration that allows you to initiate calls, to listen to voicemails, to have your text read to you, and to respond all through an Alexa device that you would have in your office. Would you like to see that demoed later today? Yeah, okay. That'll be good. We have several other integrations we're announcing today, some advanced chatbots with Glip, also the ability to call and text from Google Gmail application. That's in addition to our Google Chrome integration, and the ability for RingCentral conferencing and RingCentral meetings integrated with Slack. All of these will be demoable outside, but we'll do one up here before I leave the stage. But that's not all. Would you like something else new? All right, this is a first in the industry. This doesn't exist anywhere. But we're announcing the launch of a global quality of service analytics tool. This gives you, never before had in the industry, reporting down to every call, actually every leg of every one of your millions of calls, to look at the underlying quality of each of those call legs and have it in an administrative portal with high fidelity to go and identify any potential issues and flag them, and do this across your entire organization, across all our global office countries. And we're going to demo that later today. And we're also announcing expansion of our global office into Brazil and shortly Argentina and Peru by the end of the year, which will give us our 5th continent for global office. Well, let's see some of this live stuff. The team's been working really hard on this, so I'd like to call up Jose Pastor, our VP of Product Management.
This is that ice cold Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them hood girls, them good girls, straight masterpieces.
Morning, Dave.
Morning.
You can keep the clicker. It's product.
Okay. Product's product, not slideware.
Well, thanks. I'm delighted to come on out and show you some product today. In fact, I'm going to show 3 demos. The first one Dave talked about, or at least I could hear it backstage. It's about quality of service analytics. And I'm more than just delighted. I'm fired up about this one, because you all look at your networks. Vendors talk about quality of service, but this is different. This is real live, end-to-end visibility that you won't get anywhere else at scale. So for you, whether you're an IT manager now or you were earlier in your career, you can see from end to end, not just for you, but for hundreds of thousands of customers across millions of users, measuring and reporting on billions of calls. It's the real deal. And it gives you visibility that you've never had before. And I'm a product guy, so let's do some demo. I think we're ready to start. We're going to start in the RingCentral account. This is the account that Vlad makes calls on, that Dave makes calls on, that I make calls on. Here we are, dashboard, inside your service web, that very same place that you administer queues and IVR and everything else. It's our data. We're running at, right now, 98.7% good quality for the last 7 days. That includes hard phone, soft phone, mobile on carrier networks, home Wi-Fi, everywhere that people are working. It's not perfect, but it's completely transparent. 1.4% of those calls are poor. And there's another about 0.8% that are moderate. We work hard to deliver the best quality across every network, across your enterprise. But sometimes you want to look at locations. So if I want to see what's happening in our UK office, I scroll on up there, I can drill straight through to that data set. If I want to look at a home office in Oklahoma City, I can see that. It's just that simple. We further break it down across salient dimensions that you can use to better manage your system. Endpoints, what are people using to talk? Voice codecs, this is something you have control over. How are they using the system? Third, and importantly, ISPs, the service side, that last mile that's so important for the world's best over-the-top service. Great visibility, and it doesn't stop there. We go further. We show you voice quality versus volume. So what you're seeing here is 7 days at RingCentral. As you'd expect, our networks are built very well for voice and video. The blue bars, that's call volume. Green line is quality. So where do we see quality drop? Drive time, nights and weekends, when people are running on cellular networks or home Wi-Fis and the rest. And that raises this very high bar with very advanced voice processing to give you the best quality in any network condition. Top to bottom visibility across your enterprise, across locations, and across volume. Let's go one step further. We've heard vendors talk about having a single view into a user experience for some time. We've even seen it demoed, but you don't see it live too much. Let me take a quick swig here before we go. So let's see it live. Bird's eye view, extensions. People run on extensions in the cloud communication system. And if I click into it, we're going to see Mitch Tarika here. Bear with me. You know, there's nothing quite like a demo for a product guy. Visibility into the person's calls, all their calls, their geographies, and their performance across time and date. That way I can tell Mitch Tarika, which many of you probably know, how he's working and what his experience is like top to bottom. The third example that I want to do then is one about troubleshooting. If your CXO or other VIP calls and asks you a question about the bad call that they had the other day, what do you do? Well, it used to be that you had to go look and ask them when they called. Not anymore. You click, you type in that executive's name. In this case, we're going to use Sonia. That's all her calls. That's too many. So let's filter for the poor ones. And boom, there it is. There's a bad call between Sonia and Irene Yam. Let's drill into that. As you well know, you can get your geek on now, we've got 4 legs in every call. Sonia's side is good. Her upstream, meaning from client to RingCentral, that's got a 3.9 with very little packet loss and a little bit of jitter. That's why it's not perfect. Her downstream side, that's from RingCentral to the client, that's over the internet. 3.8, it's okay. It's got more jitter, that's why we see that lower score. And that's what we'd expect, because she's running on an older Polycom sound system here. It's a hard phone running an HD codec. Great visibility. My exec's okay. Let's have a look at Irene. She's poor. And what's happened here? Upstream's good, 4.2, because she's running on an Opus codec, very modern, really good at working on networks. Still got some jitter, but it's okay, it's making up for it. This is the problem. Going from RingCentral over the cellular, over the wireless network and down to her phone, if you squint, you can see it. She's had 100% packet loss there because AT&T Wireless went dark someplace during that call. So what happens now? Let me step back. It used to be that that call was answered with that CXO or VIP, and the question was like, I'll look into it. And then by the time you could get back, the answer was stale, and you didn't win. What I just did took seconds to get to the bottom of it and give you the answer that you need to get to the bottom of the question and move on. In this case, it's outside of my span of control, so I don't need to worry. That's quality of service analytics for customers. But wait, there's more. And this one wasn't even on Dave's slide. So QoS is today. We're going to talk about active quality management, which is tomorrow. Vlad called out how important partners are and how important they are to you because they're your trusted partners that you work with to buy network access, network gear, and even support your products. Well, we're enabling them, or working very hard to enable them, to serve you better. Why? Because they should have the exact same tools, the most powerful tools out there, to see into your call quality so they can get on top of it and proactively get after it. The screen's a little complicated, so I'm going to talk you through it. I'll try to do the voice navigation thing, but sometimes you need a little complexity to deliver the power that your providers need. This is one of our service providers. It's their entire customer deck. Scores across the top, 98.5% good, a map of where the calls are originating, customers on the sides, and importantly, upstream and downstream performance separated because in many cases they're providing voice access. We break it down by the same important dimensions, endpoints, codecs, so that they can proactively reach out to you on how your system's configured, and guess what, ISPs, because many of them are providing you that service. And you want to be able to see how that's working for you. And there it is in black and white. Well, green, black, and red. Up on the top right, we've got customers that need attention. Why do we surface that? Because that's how your partners are going to react. And we make it visual so they can do it fast. Color coding is good in a table, but nothing speaks like red and white volume, so I can see this customer here is having some serious trouble. But what am I going to do about that, and how else might I want to look at this? Well, let's look. Geography is often important in the way that we deliver services to our customers, because even if we're cloud, there are still boxes in the line. Let's look at the map. This is where our calls originate. I'm going to go ahead and drill in there. I can see a problem sort of in the middle of the US. I double click, and that's a filter for the entire tool. Why? So I can have unprecedented visibility and granularity. This region's in trouble. 3.2 average MOS score is not good enough. And it's an upstream link problem. If there's an upstream link problem, what do I need to do? Can I jump on it right away? Well, probably not. Actually, what I need to do is I need to dig deeper. And to dig deeper, we use the power of big data to progressively disclose those next steps. And here's the magic. I can see them all, I've got their scores, and boom. Looks familiar, right? The same power that we expose to you, the IT pro, we expose to your managed service provider so that they can help you faster. This customer is having some trouble with a specific kind of endpoint. One of their carriers is not doing them very good service. And you can see it because as their call volume goes up, their quality takes a big tank. That's not good, but it's fixable, because the last mile, we understand how to fix that as network professionals, right? So let me stop there for just a second. Why is active quality management important? Because if you use partners, you want them to be empowered to help you, and not when you call, before you call. And that's the power of what's coming in next year, Next year at 18, we'll deliver this as an add-on service for our partners so that they can pass it on to you as a value add to drive the value in the ecosystem. You guys are an awesome crowd. Next up, I'm going to talk about something a little less. You can take your geek off now. We're going to talk a little bit more about real life that you probably experience every day. David announced Amazon Skills, or talked about it. We talked about it today. We've long seen that consumer behaviors drive the way that we work in the office. And one of these important trends is virtual personal assistants. We've got it in Siri on our iPhone, we've got them in Google Homes, and there are lots of Alexas out there. Something like 15 million of these things have shipped. I've got one at home. My kids love it. I've got a colleague, I don't see him out here, but I've got a colleague out here who's got 6 of these things. And he gets his geek on. He does stuff like he controls his blinds, the lights, even the lights in his bathroom. Don't ask me why, but he does. And that's cool, right? But it's got to be useful because we're here to drive productivity. So we spent time with you, our customers, and we dug in deep with the Amazon Alexa team to figure out what is actually possible on that platform today so that we could deliver you some benefit. So we're going to do an example. If you're like me, you come into the office in the morning, you're raring to go. You got a cup of coffee in one hand, you got your briefcase over your shoulder, maybe in a backpack. You got your, well, my phone's down there, but you got your phone in your hand and the wires are dripping off it. But you want to get going, right? Using just your voice. So let's try it. Actually, I didn't tell you. This is Alexa right here. It's an Amazon Dot. Alexa, open RingCentral.
You were listening to a message from undefined. Would you like to resume, call back, or delete this message?
So I'm a product guy, and I love to give demos.
Would you like to resume, call back, or delete this message?
But Alexa's a little shy when she's in front of 1,000 people. So we'll give this one more college try. And I'm sure that no one here has ever shown a demo in front of somebody important where it didn't quite go right. So I know you're with me. But I'm not going to take up your whole morning. Let's just do it. Alexa, close RingCentral.
John Kestner, right? John Kestner, right?
I may throw in the towel, but don't hold it against me. I can show you the 20 text messages that I sent Dave over the weekend for this very demo. Alexa, open RingCentral.
You were listening to a message from undefined. Would you like to resume, call back, or delete this message? Would you like to resume, call back, or delete this message?
So here's my commitment to you. We will we'll plug in an Alexa out there. I'll talk to her softly. And we'll show you how we can do interesting things. We'll show you how we can do interesting things that are useful. Can you tell it's not in production yet? We'll show you how she can do interesting things that are useful, like play your voicemail messages, play your text messages, and reply using just the power of your voice when she's not in a big room. And with that, I'll give it back to Dave. Thanks for your support on the demos. Okay.
Thanks,
Dave.
Always fun. All right, great. Well, some unprecedented items there with our global quality analytics, and we will get Alexa demoing later today. You know, one thing, Heraclitus was right. The only constant really is change. And you know what he might not have foresaw was how long that would prove true and this acceleration of change that we're seeing. But with that, that's why Vlad talked about our commitment to innovation, to customer satisfaction, to reliable service is one thing we know is our constant that we can provide you in helping you navigate the digital age